Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. We'll start out with some jury charge. Ready? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, at the close of the arguments of the lawyers, it is my duty to instruct you on the principles of law that should govern you in your consideration of the evidence and in reaching a verdict. It is your duty as members of the jury to take the law as it is given to you in these instructions and to apply that law to the facts in the case that are properly proven and then arrive at your verdict therefrom. It is your duty to exclude from consideration everything except the evidence received on the trial and the law as given to you by the instructions, and from these alone, guided by your soundest reason and best judgment, reach a verdict. Now, if during the trial of this case I have given, or during the course of these instructions I may give any one of you any impression of opinion or my opinion concerning the guilt or innocence of the defendant, I charge you to disregard such impression entirely and decide the issues of fact in this case solely as you view the evidence. You, the jury, are the sole judges of the facts, and the court is the judge of the law only. Now, the complaint in this case charges that on or about August 19, 1989, in King County, the defendant did intentionally receive a stolen floor jack, knowing the property to be stolen, the value of the same being a value not exceeding $100. To this charge, as I have indicated before, the defendant has entered a plea of not guilty, which means a denial of every material allegation in the complaint. And I tell you, a complaint is nothing more than a written formal accusation against a defendant charging him or her with one or more criminal acts. You are not to consider it as evidence in the case in any way, and it doesn't raise any inference of guilt. The defendant is charged with what is called receiving stolen property. Receiving stolen property, as defined in Section 943.34 of the Criminal Code of Wisconsin, is committed by one who intentionally receives or conceals stolen property. Before the defendant may be found guilty of receiving or concealing stolen property, the state must prove by evidence which satisfies you beyond a reasonable doubt that there were present three elements of this offense. The first element is that the defendant intentionally received the property. The second element is that the floor jack was stolen property, the first element of the offense. The third element is that when the property was received, knew or believed that it was stolen. So there are three elements: intentional receipt of the property; second, the property was stolen; third, that the defendant intentionally received the property, and that when the property was received, the defendant knew or believed that it was stolen. Now, the first element requires the defendant intentionally receive the property. Intentionally means that the defendant had the mental purpose to receive the property or believe that if his act was successful, that would cause that result. The second element requires the property was stolen property at the time it is alleged the defendant received it. Stolen property means property which was obtained by theft. The third element of the offense requires that the defendant knew or believed that the property was stolen at the time he received it. While it must be found beyond a reasonable doubt that at the time it is alleged he received the property, the defendant believed or knew that the property was stolen property, his knowledge or belief must be found, if found at all, from his acts, words, and statements, if any, and from all the facts and circumstances surrounding his alleged receipt of the property bearing upon his belief or knowledge. Negligence is failure to use reasonable care. Reasonable care is that care which a reasonable person would use under like circumstances. Negligence is the doing of some act which a reasonable person would not do, or the failure to do something which a reasonable person would do under like circumstances. In the case of a child, reasonable care is that care which a reasonable child of the same age, intelligence, training, and experience would have used under like circumstances. A cause of action in negligence lies against a person who causes damage or destruction of property to a person through negligent conduct. To understand the basis for a negligent act, action, it is necessary to understand the underlying duty or due or reasonable care. Every person owes a duty of reasonable care not to injure others or damage others' property. The duty is to act reasonably, considering the harm to others that might happen. The law does not demand perfection. What is reasonable care depends upon existing circumstances which are known or should be known. A person's conduct is not judged on the basis of hindsight. Adults are charged with knowledge ordinarily possessed by members of the community and knowledge of natural laws, such as gravity. All right, now we'll try some literary material. And this is one we had previously started called For the Love of Language. Ready? Here we go. As it is impossible to really learn any language from scratch, polyglots use their previous knowledge of their own language or life experience to piece together new grammar rules and extrapolate to create unique sentences in the language they are learning. This tool, more often found in adult learners on account of their more intimate knowledge with parts of their own language, facilitates the language acquiring process. Likewise, after covering the building blocks of the stenographic language, in theory, disciplined students will naturally begin stringing together phonetic strokes to build new words not taught in class. Later on, throughout speed building, students will devise new briefs and phrases as the need arises based off of the patterns of briefs and brief families learned before. In this way, court reporters use not only the arsenal of linguistic knowledge from their native language to apply to stenography, but they build off of the rules and patterns established in earlier steno lessons to boost their fluency. Full immersion, the last outstanding similarity I see with court reporting school and a language class, is the impact that discipline and immersion can make. If one thing was made clear in Japanese class in school, it's that those who embraced the language head-on made the most progress. Students who did all of the homework, practiced outside of class, and reviewed future lessons became fluent more quickly than those who only dabbled in the language as a passing fancy and left it behind when they left the classroom. This can also be seen in court reporting students, and the difference is evident as early as in theory. Students need to take a proactive role in their learning if they hope to excel in court reporting school. Stay on the machine after class, practice dictation from sources outside of your textbooks, and immerse yourself in court reporting by attending industry conventions or speaking with working reporters, with studies debunking misconceptions about needing the knack or gene to become fluent in the other language. That only leaves the discipline and passion to dictate your success. From the way in which theory lessons are structured to the benefits of embracing stenography outside of class, you'll find the same principles of second language acquisition in court reporting school as in any language class. When you use these similarities, you can appreciate your own fluency in this wonderful language and consider yourself at the very least bilingual. And as my Japanese teacher said in school, language is a game, so get off the bench, have fun, and play to win. Language is a game. I haven't heard that one. All right, let's practice this land description. Good number practice. Ready? Here we go. Land and land covered with water containing 6.76 acres more or less, being composed of part of water lot in front of farm lot number 46, more particularly described as follows, commencing at the southwest angle of farm lot number 46, said point being in the high water mark of the Detroit River, thence north 60 degrees 48 minutes west, 1,762 feet more or less, to a point in the international boundary line between the United States and Canada, thence north 20 degrees 36 minutes east upstream, and along the said international boundary line 240 feet to a point, then south 56 degrees 19 minutes 33 seconds east, 1,783 feet more or less, to a point in the high water mark of the Detroit River, then south 17 degrees 8 minutes west along said high water mark of the Detroit River, 100 feet to the point of commencement. Let's see here what we have as far as literary material. This is the text from a speed contest, literary, and it was read at 220 words per minute. And again, this is the text from the speed contest. Ready? This will not be at 220 words per minute, don't worry. Right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that all of you are here today to learn about the failure of food crops that is happening around the globe. I know that all of you are very concerned about the recent failure of much of the eastern world's wheat crop earlier this fall. The bad news is that as our weather becomes more extreme, we are likely to see the same conditions happening more often in other places as well. Scientists from many disciplines and many countries are studying this issue. One study that I will be referring to in making these comments can be found in the notes to this report. Fortunately, there is also some good news we can rely on. The worst effects of such crop failures can be lessened and perhaps even prevented if we take steps today. According to some very important new research, these steps will involve making changes to farming in many ways. The steps will include developing new crops that will be more tolerant to the changes we see coming in the near future. We all know we can't see the weather in many ways that farmers wish were possible. Annual records and planting zone data that have spanned generations are no longer reliable measures. We are well aware of some general trends that we would be foolish to ignore. Some areas of the world are getting hotter and drier, while in others we have rising levels of flooding and crop damage. We know where these changing areas are and that those trends are likely to continue into the far future. It would make sense to begin planting new strains of wheat and other crops into these areas now. It would make sense to teach farmers how to make the most out of these new crops before the changes grow more obvious. Unfortunately, this wasn't the course of action that the government of the places hit by this winter's failure chose to take. Instead, they simply banned the export of wheat products. They left those farmers with products still to sell in a position to make money, while those who were hit by low harvests were likely to go under. You might conclude it was a question of deciding who got richer and who got poorer, but that won't prepare anybody for the coming grounds of climate change. When weather decides to strike, it's not going to respect who made money last time and who didn't. It's just going to affect whoever and whatever is in its path. No, what is needed is not a market response. What is needed is a farming plan for better harvests in the face of wider swings of heat, cold, and rainfall. This is not a trade issue at all, although soon there will be fewer crops to trade. It affects everyone on the planet, not just those in the regions that produce the crops that are affected. We have to face the weather situation. More extreme weather must be expected to occur in the coming years due to climate change, and we have shown that these events are likely to contribute to more crop failures. What we have to do now is think about the solutions. Being careful and planning ahead is a good first reaction. We will need to work together to find solutions. Scientists, farmers, and governments must find a way to overcome their individual interests and work together for global solutions. Knowing that there will not likely be just one solution to protect all crops against failures in all regions is another fact we have to know. Back to some jury charge. And this is one that we had started. It's a real estate condemnation jury charge. So some more number practice in this one too. Ready? Here we go. Also, a parcel of land known as Lot 12 in Norwood's unrecorded subdivision of the east 1/2 of the southeast 1/4 of Section 14, Township 36 North, Range 7 West, Sumter County, to wit, commencing at an iron pipe, is now located at a point 1960.7 feet north and 18.4 feet east of the southwest corner of the said east 1/2 of the said southeast 1/4 section, and running thence north 105.6 feet to an iron pipe, thence east 437.67 feet to an iron pipe, is now located on the west line of a public highway, then south along said west line of said public highway 105.6 feet to an iron pipe, as now located thence west 437.46 feet to the point of beginning, containing 1.10 acres more or less, that the west 200 feet of the south 105.6 feet of the above described parcel be, and the same is hereby appropriated and condemned to the use of the plaintiff for school purposes. 2. That the defendants Clyde Hilton and Laura Hilton, his wife, are the owners in fee simple of the following described real estate in Sumter County, to wit, the east 12.75 acres of the northwest 1/4 of the southeast 1/4 of Section 14, Township 36 North, Range 7 West, accepting therefrom the former right-of-way of the Southwestern Railway, and accepting therefrom the following described 2 parcels of real estate, to wit, a parcel of land beginning at the southeast corner of the northwest 1/4 of the southeast 1/4 of Section 14, Township 36 North, Range 7 West, thence running east 18.4 feet, thence north parallel to the east line of said northwest 1/4 of southeast 1/4 Section 1118.15 feet to the south line of a public highway, thence west along the south line of said public highway 155.82 feet, thence south parallel to said east line of the northwest 1/4 of southeast 1/4 Section 1118.15 feet to the south line of said northwest 1/4 of southeast 1/4 section, thence east 137.42 feet to the point of beginning, containing 4 acres, also 4 acres off the west side of that part south of the south line of the public highway of the 12.75 acre parcel, off of the east side of the northwest 1/4 of the southeast 1/4 of Section 14, Township 36 North, Range 7 West, accepting therefrom the former right-of-way of the Southwestern Railway, subject to existing public highways, that the south 742.75 feet of the above described real estate be, and the same is hereby condemned and appropriated to plaintiff's use for school purposes, all of which is now considered, ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the court, and the court now appoints Nathan Swanson, George Corwith, and Frank F. Brooks, 3 disinterested freeholders of Morgan Township School Corporation to assess the damages that each of the defendants will sustain by reason of the appropriations aforesaid, and they are hereby directed that after being duly sworn as provided by law, they shall proceed to assess said damages and return their award thereof to this court. That will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.